It was the morning of January 27, 2001. I was getting ready to depart my home airport at Pineville Municipal, Pineville, Louisiana, en route to Lafayette Regional Airport in Lafayette, Louisiana. The purpose of today's flight was to take my private pilot check ride in Lafayette. Today's cross-country flight would take us 68 nautical miles to the south. I obtained a weather briefing, and conditions, although VFR, were marginally so at points between my departure and destination airports. I had what they refer to as get-there-itis, very anxious to take my private pilot check ride. I allowed this factor to impair my judgment and decision-making. I should have delayed my departure until later in the day when weather conditions were expected to improve. As you can see from this METAR pulled from January 27, 2001 at my departure time, the weather conditions at my departure airport, which is depicted at Kilo Alpha Echo X-ray, which is Alexandria International Airport, 8 miles to the west of Pineville Municipal, showed 7 statute miles visibility with clouds broken at 3,800, overcast at 6,000. The temperature dew point spread was 2 degrees, altimeter 3030. The conditions at my arrival airport, Kilo Lima Fox Tango, was 1.5 miles visibility with mist, clouds scattered at 600, scattered at 2,800, and overcast at 7,000. Perhaps more importantly, the temperature dew point spread was 0 degrees. These conditions were certainly not ideal. I was counting on the fact that the conditions were expected to improve as the day went on. It's also important to note that in addition to the 35 flight hours that went into my private pilot training, I had also been side-by-side training on Flight Simulator 2000. Flight Simulator 2000 had built into it both a private pilot and instrument pilot course narrated by world-renowned CFI Rod Machado. I completed both courses and probably had accumulated as many as 100 flight hours in the simulator, with particular emphasis on the instrument portion of the training. In addition to the simulator instrument training, private pilot training requires that you receive at least 3 hours of instrument reference flight, requiring a view limiting device, limiting you solely to instrument reference while flying the airplane. Although helpful, these 3 hours by themselves are not enough to get a pilot out of trouble when flying into instrument meteorological conditions on a VFR flight. As you'll soon see, the flight hours that I put into instrument training on Flight Simulator 2000 become critically important on this flight as it progresses. I can confidently say that the flight hours that I put into the instrument training on the simulator saved my life on this day, January 27, 2001. Here we are on the ground at Pineville Municipal, getting ready to take off runway 36. The plan is to fly a left downwind departure, heading southbound to intercept the 154 radial off the Alexandria VOR. Let's take a look at our flight plan for today using SkyVector. So here we are at Pineville Municipal, and we're going to fly an intercept course of about 200 degrees to intercept the 154 radial off the Alexandria VOR. We're tuned to 116.1 in our VOR number 1. This is exactly what I did on January 27, 2001. I also had the Nav2 tuned to the Lafayette VORTAC on 109.8, and somewhere midway between Alexandria and Lafayette, I began navigating on the Lafayette VOR. We ran into trouble somewhere here just north of Bunkie when we got into instrument meteorological conditions, or IMC, and we remained in IMC all the way through to just south of Opelousas and just before entering the Class Charlie airspace at Lafayette, Louisiana. Let's jump in the airplane, and we're going to do the entire flight today, and I'm going to narrate as I fly it and let you know what's going on and what was going on through my mind on that day in question. Okay, so we're ready for takeoff. All of our navs and comms are tuned to the right frequency. We've already done our run-up. So parking brake release, full power, feet off the brakes, and maintaining runway center line. Engine instruments are in the green, power available for takeoff. And airspeed indicators alive, looking for rotation speed. And there it is, and gently back on the control wheel. Maintaining runway heading. And climbing to 700 feet above airport elevation, 800 feet for our left turn out, and left downwind departure to the south. 600 feet. And 700. And those 800 left turn out. And these conditions very closely match what I was experiencing on that day on departure. And as you'll see here shortly, they began to deteriorate fairly quickly after takeoff. Just about the time that I intercepted the 154 radial and began heading south. And we're going to roll out on reciprocal heading. On the downwind, there's the airport that you can see below us to the left. Coming up on 1,500, looking for 2,000, and that's the altitude that I flew on that day. I saw the clouds. We were about 1,000 feet below the clouds here at Pineville Municipal. That began to change as we progressed southward. Coming up on 1,800 feet. I'm now turned to my intercept course 200 to intercept the 154 radial southbound. And we're going to level off here at 2,000. And pull the power back to cruise. And trim for 2,000. And we're going to lean on mixture just a little bit. Everything's looking good at this point. Real excited to get down there and take my private pilot check ride. I had just flown with my instructor the day before. We went through a bunch of maneuvers and emergency procedures. I felt like I was squared away, ready to get down there and take the test. Keeping my fingers crossed here that the weather stays as is or improves as we progress southward. Okay, everything's looking good. Cruise checklist. We have our power set. We're leaned. Landing light off. Now we're just looking for the 154 radial off the Alexandria VOR to start coming in. Then we're going to turn left to our course at 154 degrees. And we're going to listen to our nav 1 to make sure that we're tuned to the right. ADX is confirmed. 109.8 is set in nav 2. Right here. Now the trouble began not long after I intercepted that radial and started heading south on 154. Everything's looking okay. I mean, it's not a super good VFR day, but it is VFR nonetheless. Visibility right now is about 6 miles, and we're about 1,000 feet below the cloud layer. Again, going through my mind right now is just thinking about all the different maneuvers, trying to remember all the things that I'm going to need to know for my oral, which is about an hour's worth of oral interview by the examiner prior to the practical portion. All right, everything's looking good. We're maintaining 2,000. I'm trying to look off in the distance, but again, visibility is only 6 miles at this point, and it doesn't look great up ahead, but I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that everything's going to stay like it is or become even better as the day progresses and the air starts warming up. Dew point temperature spread increases. I want to point out out that the airplane I flew in 2001 was not equipped with GPS. GPS certainly had made its seat in the aviation community, but it was not prevalent. So everything for me was navigating by navigation radio, aeronautical sectionals, and vacuum instruments. Now, having spent all the time training in Flight Simulator 2000, particularly instrument, I felt very proficient and comfortable with flying by instrument reference only. The 3 hours I received in private pilot training was certainly helpful. My instructor would have me do exercises where I would close my eyes and he would tell me to maintain straight and level flight and ask me to turn to headings, level the airplane, ascend and descend with my eyes closed, and then he would have me open my eyes, and when I thought I was straight level, I would find that I was in a descending right turn or left turn. So what I quickly learned from that is not to fly by your senses, but to rely on instruments. There's a needle coming in, so I start to turn to 154. This is exactly what I did on that day. Making a nice gentle turn to 154 as the needle comes in, looking to center it. As far as the courses on Flight Simulator 2000, taught by world-renowned CFI, Rod Machado, he definitely didn't cut you any slack as you went through the different exercises in the Flight Simulator. And if you execute all of the exercises to the standards that were set in the simulator, you would be issued a certificate. And as I mentioned earlier, I was issued both the private and instrument certificates. Felt really good about that because a lot of work went into it. Now we're watching that needle come in. We're keeping a look at the weather. Needle's coming in, maintaining 2,000. Everything's looking great. Engine instruments are all in the green. Coming left a little bit, watching that needle. There, it's coming in. So coming left to 154. That looks great. So I'm going to hold that right there. Getting a little bit concerned about what I'm seeing up ahead. It's hard to make it out, but definitely there's a cloud layer that looks like it's lower than the cloud layer we're flying under right now. All I can think about is, man, I can't wait to get there and get my private pilot license. And as I said earlier, that definitely impaired my judgment. Everything's looking great. Visual reference to the horizon. Not too happy about what I'm seeing up ahead, but pressing on nonetheless. Adjusting my directional gyro for precess. That looks good right there. Holding what I got. Things aren't looking too good up ahead. Here I'm not too happy about what I'm seeing. I'm maintaining 2,000. Looks like, okay, I'm below these clouds, but I really need to be 500 feet below them right now, and I'm not 500 feet below. I start to get a little bit anxious. I'm going to press on. What I should be doing right now is a 180-degree turn, fly away from the clouds, land, reassess, take off later, or the next day, or some other day. Again, I'm getting a little bit nervous, but I think, well, you know what, I'm just going to press on. It's just a really thin cloud layer. I'll fly right through it, come out on the other side, and everything will be well. Things are getting a little bit hazy. Here's a look outside the airplane. And here's where it happened. I kept flying straight ahead, and this is what I got into. So now this is the very first time I have ever flown into clouds. Needless to say, I am super anxious. Right now I'm white knuckling it, and I'm really, really nervous. I take a couple of deep breaths. and I start to fall back on my instrument training, and I start focusing on the instruments, hoping and praying that I'm going to get out of this stuff sooner rather than later. So right now I'm looking at my attitude indicator, making sure that I'm level, straight and level, and I'm looking at my heading indicator to make sure that I'm maintaining my heading of 154. Scan it over here to take a look at the needle, make sure that I'm flying the VOR appropriately, looking at my altimeter and vertical speed indicator. And I just remember that the instruments are my friend. The instruments do not lie. What does lie is your own sense of your attitude, independent of the instruments. So I'm not paying attention to where I think I am in terms of straight level. But again, I'm relying solely on the instruments. Really nervous, but I start to settle into the instruments. So now I'm not looking at the airplane other than periodically just to see if things improve a little bit. And they don't seem to be. So now I'm hoping and thinking, man, I'm going to be coming out of this stuff really, really soon. It's just a really thin layer. I don't need to worry about it. Just hold what I have for another minute or two, and I'll be out of this stuff. Oh, there, I can see a little bit of terrain below. I'm going to stick to my instruments, though. I'm not going to look down there right now. And hopefully I'll come out of this stuff sooner rather than later. Another look outside the airplane. And just when I think things might be getting better, they get worse. But I keep thinking to myself, man, it can't be this bad. This cloud layer just has to be a really thin cloud layer. I'm gonna come out on the other side any minute now. And then this happens. Right now it's absolute zero visibility, and I remember thinking to myself, it feels like someone took a sheet and put it over the airplane. There is nothing to look at out there. I'm still super nervous, but I'm trying to take deep breaths and remember what I did in my instrument training and try to do that here in the real airplane. So now I'm thinking, it's not improving, so why don't I try to descend, take a look at my maximum elevation figure for the area that I'm flying in, descend to that, and hopefully come out the bottom of this cloud layer. So I bring up my sectional chart. I take a look here, and it looks like my maximum elevation figure is 900 feet. So I can descend to 900 feet safely and hopefully come out the bottom of this layer. So I remember reducing power, and I also remember saying to myself, everything I do in this airplane right now, I'm going to do very, very slowly. Nothing abrupt. So my descent was very, very gentle, maybe 200 feet per minute. All the while looking down to see if I'm going to come out the bottom of the cloud layer. Any turns that I do to heading, I remember saying, I've got to do these really gently, nothing abrupt. I don't want to have to make any kind of major corrections. So now I'm very gently descending, looking out the airplane, not looking good. Now I'm at 1,800. I've got to remember to look at that attitude indicator and keep those wings level. Okay, it's straight and level. I'm on 154 heading. Looking at the radial, that looks good. I still don't see the Lafayette VOR. Now in hindsight, a couple things. At this point, number one, I'm not going to do my 180-degree turn and fly out because I'm already in it and I didn't want to take that risk. What I could have done though, is I could have contacted approach control, told them about my situation, and asked for vectors to get out of the weather. I think there was a big part of me thinking, you know what, I'm in trouble here and I don't want to get in any more trouble by talking to air traffic control. Not a good decision when it comes down to your life. Okay, so I'm really gently descending, looking over there. Okay, now I'm coming up on 1,500. Not looking good. I don't see anything outside the airplane. Another look outside. that's exactly what we were seeing on that day in question. And I'm thinking, this can't last long. But the reality is, it could last long, because the temperature dew point spread down at Lafayette when I departed was 0 degrees. And that means moisture in the air, precipitation, limited visibility. Still descending 1,400, nothing. No reference to the horizon. Can't see terrain below me. Stick to the instruments. Look at your attitude indicator. Watch your altitude, your heading. Vertical speed indicator showing a descent of 200 feet per minute. That's fine. I'm going to keep it right there. Nothing abrupt. That's what I was saying to myself. I was saying to myself, I can survive this. And as I said earlier, and I'll say it again, the 3 hours that I received of instrument reference training, while very, very valuable, would not be enough to get me out of trouble in this situation. If that's all that we're relying on, without having flown the simulator in instrument conditions, I probably wouldn't be talking to you here today. Okay, looking good on heading. Now we're coming up to 1,200 feet. We're going to take it down to 900 feet. Real gentle descent. I remember this distinctly. This is so imprinted on my mind, it's like it happened yesterday. That's how traumatic it was for me. Now remember, I'm not even a pilot yet. I'm a student pilot trying to do this in IMC as a result of a really bad decision on my part. I set that heading bug for 154. And just hold that. Oh, looking at my attitude indicator. Slowly coming back. Now 1,100. Still nothing down there. Looking at the needle. Coming a little bit right because I'm left of course. Watching the attitude indicator. Now coming up on 1,000 feet, still nothing down there. At no point was I not nervous. But thankfully, early on, I disciplined myself to do what I did in training. And it saved my life. Now I start thinking to myself, what if it stays like this all the way to the airport? What do I do then? I have to talk to a controller at some point. There's 1,000 coming up on 900, still nothing. It's not looking good. So here I have my aeronautical sectional folded up, folded open to the relevant section. I'm looking at it, making sure, okay, there's 900, I can't go below that. I'm adding a little bit of power. I remember descending to 900 and then climbing back up because that wasn't helping me. I climbed back up to 1,000 feet, took a look again at my sectional. It's like, well, will 1,000 feet be good all the way down to the airport? Looks like 1,200 here, 2,000 there. So then I said to myself, you know what, I'm gonna climb back up to 2,000. I took, 1,500 and hold that. There, just in that brief period, looking at the sectional, I noticed that I went into a left turn, looking at my attitude indicator, getting things back under control, coming up a little bit right of my set course of 154 to catch that radial over here. And these are all the kinds of things that were happening in the airplane. I'm trying to look at the sectional. I didn't spend a whole lot of time doing that though. I didn't want any distractions. I wanted to keep flying the airplane and hopefully come out of this stuff sooner rather than later. There I just saw the Lafayette VOR come alive. I'm going to listen to make sure that we're tuned to the correct navigation radio. That's LFT. Kidadit, top. Still not looking good. These conditions are not getting better. Now my main concern, the thing I was mostly worried about right now is it going to stay like this the entire way? Because then I need to really figure something out. Now, keep in mind, there's no for-flight, no ADS-B, no weather. The only information I have is my weather briefing before departure. And the ASOS when I'm able to receive it at Lafayette. Start to climb, I climbed it back up to 1,500. All I can think about right now is controlled flight into terrain, although in Louisiana, that's not something you need to worry about, the terrain factor at this altitude. Nothing really in Louisiana from a terrain standpoint is really higher than maybe 300 to 400 feet, but there are man-made structures that go well above that. So again, I'm a little bit right on my course. Look over here at my radial, trying to capture it. I remember taking quick looks at my sectional, make sure I had everything right. Yeah, looking at my attitude indicator, starting to go into a left turn. Coming up on 1,500, and that's where I leveled off. Still not looking good. Notice myself climbing above 1,500 there, correcting for that. I remember just wanting to stay riveted at 1,500. For better or worse, it gave me a goal and I focused on it. Okay, so both Lafayette and Alexandria VORs show that we're on course. I remember feeling really good about the fact that I had tuned into the VORs and was flying those radials. That was another thing that made me feel safe. Still looking, nothing out there to see. I remember also seeing the clouds do exactly what they're doing now. Periodically, you would get these various changes in texture, and they weren't always horizontal. In fact, rarely were horizontal with the horizon, which I couldn't see. And so I remember thinking, you know, when I look out at that disorients me. So I'm just going to stay down in here and look at the instruments. Now, as I said earlier, this went on for 20 full minutes of zero visibility. And every now and then I'd find myself drifting ever so slightly off course, and I would very gently and slowly bring myself back in. Just holding that 1,500, holding that heading, watching the needle. Now, this is something I would not be prepared to do, but if there were a vacuum system failure right now, again, probably I wouldn't be talking to you right now. But now that I know what to do if you have a vacuum system failure, which in this airplane, your attitude indicator, heading indicator would fail, the key is to recognize that sooner rather than later. then instead of flying my attitude indicator, I'll begin flying my turn coordinator and using my compass for heading. So everything's looking great. If I were a instrument-rated pilot and flying my instrument flight plan, I would be real happy with this. But right now, keep in mind, I'm not even a pilot. I'm still a student, trying to do what I learned to do in a flight simulator. And that's why I take flight simulation flying so seriously. Now, it can be for recreation and entertainment purposes, and I certainly do use it for that. But I also use it for real-world flight training, and it has helped my proficiency significantly. I continue to use it for that purpose. But I'm not overstating it when I say it literally saved my life on this day. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't have any reference down below me. And so I had no way of telling exactly where I was, other than the amount of time that I'd spent in flight and my airspeed and estimated ground speed. Alright, starting to come a little bit left. The needle's centered right there. 1,500 feet is my target. This seems like it's going on forever, and I'm still thinking, man, if this keeps up when I get to the airport, I've got to come up with a plan. I've got to talk to somebody. And I'm thinking, what am I going to ask them? What am I going to say? I thought, you know, at least I would ask for vectors into VFR conditions. I certainly would not feel comfortable flying the instrument approach procedure. Didn't have the plates with me to begin with. Remember, no ForeFlight, no GPS. So that would have been disastrous. Still nothing. Zero visibility. I just kept thinking to myself how bizarre it was as to have what seemed like a sheet being placed over the entire airplane. But again, those VORs were a lifesaver because I knew I was heading exactly where I needed to go. Both of them were lined up. Now we're getting pretty close to Opelousas, and it was just south of there that I started to come out, and finally did come out of the clouds and had VFR conditions all the way into Lafayette. Not quite there yet though. Now my nervousness was coming not as much from my confidence in the instruments and my ability to stay alive using them, but my anxiety was coming from not knowing how long this was going to last. Because I was not prepared to fly an instrument procedure, nor was I authorized to do that legally, even if I could do it, even if I had the instrument approach plates with me. So that was going through my mind for sure. Making a correction here on our heading very gently, just like it did it on that day, just a gentle. Coming left, down 154. Checking my gyro for pre-SAS. Now we're looking over here and we're seeing about 155 degrees. Now we're going to bring this over to 155 and hold back. The more I occupied myself with goals, like keeping my heading, maintaining my VORs, maintaining my altitude, the less distracted and nervous I was. So I kept myself busy, focused on the things I needed to focus on, trying the best I can to do an instrument scan. I remember doing this. I descended one more time. There were 2 times that I descended to about 1,000 feet. Gentle descents, just to see if I could finally break out of the cloud layer. Now we're just south of Opelousas. I just noticed we lost the Alexandria VOR, so we're relying solely now on the LFT Lafayette VOR and on VOR number 2. Still nothing, still nothing. Still nothing. Focus on the instruments. You can briefly look outside to see if you have some reference to the ground. Not seeing it yet. Nice gentle descent. I'm going to ease up on that descent. Coming up on 1,200. Flying the radial. Looking at the attitude indicator. Coming up on 1,100. Still nothing. And then, right about in this area, still look outside the airplane. I finally broke out of the cloud layer. Conditions clearly were improving as I got closer to the airport, so my confidence level increased. But I remember leveling off because I did not want to climb back up into those clouds until I saw that the cloud base improved with my southbound flight. But right now, climbing back into that thing was not something I wanted to do. So I remember leveling off at 1,000, like, wow, I can see the grounding, and that's fantastic. But keep in mind, I am still rattled from this experience. I did not shake that off completely, not by any stretch. Then as I continued south, you'll notice that conditions started to improve a little bit more, and the cloud bottoms started to become higher and higher as I progressed. Still didn't want to climb up into it though. And now things are even getting better still. So the one thing I did anticipate when I took off is that conditions would improve, and they in fact did, but I should never have taken off knowing that those conditions were so marginal at my destination airport. Now I see my radials. I'm a little bit left of course, so I'm steering to the right. I'm still nervous though. I remember being really nervous that I was going to get back into IMC again. So I'm holding just a little bit right of my course. Now things are getting better still. So I'm starting to feel really good. So now I'm tuned to Lafayette. And I remember holding 1,500 all the way in. Lafayette Tower, Cessna 789er2 Golf is 10 to the north, landing with Juliet. Cessna 789er2 Golf, Lafayette Tower, squawk 1275. Squawk 1275, Cessna 789er2 Golf. Cessna 789er2 Golf, radar contact, 10 miles north, continue present heading and state intentions. Continue present heading and Cessna 789er2 Golf, request full stop landing. Cessna 789er2 Golf, roger. Expect left downwind, runway 4 left. Expect left downwind, runway 4 left, Cessna 789er2 Golf. now, I'm watching my radio. I know this is going to take me right to the airport, so I feel great about that. Don't have a visual yet on the airport. Thinking to myself, I'm still really nervous about what just happened. I'm trying to calm myself so that I don't allow that to adversely impact my check ride. And that's a tall order, given what just happened. I'm looking good on the radio here. I'm probably somewhere around 5 miles out. I think I have the airport at 12 o'clock. Cessna 789er 2 Golf. Enter left downwind for runway 4 left, report midfield. Left downwind for 4 left, report midfield, Cessna 789er 2 Golf. Now everything that's about to happen here is exactly how it happened on that day. You'll see the mistakes I made as I came in. Descend down to pattern altitude. And I'm like super excited. I can see the airport, but it's excitement mixed with nerves. They were definitely put to the test on this flight, like no other. There I have the airport. And landing light, setting the mixture full rich. Cessna 789er 2 Golf Lafayette Tower. It appears you're making a left turn. You should be making a right turn for the downwind runway 4 left. Cessna 789er 2 Golf, roger, making that correction now. 7892 Golf, Lafayette Tower, cleared land runway 4 left. Cleared land runway 4 left. Cessna 7892 Golf. Cessna 7892 Golf, Lafayette Tower, turn next taxiway. Turn next taxiway, Cessna 7892 Golf. Cessna 7892 Golf, Lafayette Tower, taxi to park and remain this frequency. Parking this frequency, Cessna 7892 Golf. Studied the airport diagram in advance, so I knew exactly where to go to meet up with the designated examiner. And I felt some increasing tension now that I kind of muffed my heading when I was coming in for my landing. All right, let's get this shut down and we'll do a debrief. Okay, we made it. That was a traumatic experience for me, and it really shaped how I continued my flight training. And it inspired me to immediately following even this flight today, January 27, 2001, to begin my instrument flight training. Upon my return to Pineville, and conditions were fine between Lafayette and Pineville for the rest of the day, I linked up with a buddy of mine and we went ahead and flew, and I did nothing but instrument reference for several hours going into the evening. He's a National Guard pilot, helicopter pilot, so it was real helpful to have him on board and help me in my instrument training. And I officially enrolled in instrument flight training with the CFII and continued on to get my rating. And this experience that I had here really inspired me to do that. And I'm not overstating it when I say that the flight, the simulator saved my life. It truly did on this day. I made bad decisions to get me into that situation, but the training that I did in the simulator allowed me to get out of that situation alive. And that's the only reason I'm able to talk to you here today about it. So I wanted to share this with you. Hopefully it helps in some way. And thanks, as always, for joining me. And I look forward to seeing you again next flight.